What happens when a queen of empathy, whose questions have unraveled the mighty, faces a comedian who wears his heart like a shield? The studio lights burned soft, but the air was sharp with possibility. On a November evening in 2025, Oprah Winfrey sat, two low-slung velvet chairs, a polished oak table reflecting the glare of three cameras, hummed with the quiet anticipation of a cultural moment. Oprah settled into her chair, her silk blazer catching the light. Her smile was warm, practiced, a beacon of trust. Across from her sat Adam Sandler, his slouch deliberate, his sneakers scuffing the polished floor. The audience, a small cluster of 30 invited guests, rustled programs and whispered. Three cameras, one wide, one tight on Sandler's expressive face, one angled at Oprah's steady gaze, whirred faintly, their motors a low drone beneath the hum of overhead lights. A chipped porcelain cup, Oprah's own, sat on the table, its faint crack a silent motif of fragility in a space designed for control. "Thank you for being here, Adam," Oprah began, her voice a velvet tide. "It's been a minute since we've had you in this chair. How's life treating you?" Sandler leaned back, his grin wide but guarded, like a man who'd rehearsed his ease. "Life's good, Oprah. Making movies, raising kids, dodging the internet's hot takes. You know, the usual." His chuckle was loose, but his fingers tapped the armrest, a quick, restless rhythm. The audience laughed softly, a ripple of warmth. A producer in the control booth, visible through a glass panel, adjusted her headset, her lips moving in a muted whisper. "Keep it light for now." Oprah nodded, almost imperceptibly, her pen brushing the edge of her notepad. "You've always had that everyman charm," she said. "The guy next door who makes us laugh. But let's talk about the work. Your latest film, it's a departure. Darker, raw. What's driving that shift?" Sandler's eyes flicked to the chipped cup, then back to her. "I guess I'm just digging deeper. You hit a certain age, you start asking what stories matter. Not just the goofy stuff, but the real stuff. Pain, family, the mess of it all." His voice softened, a rare crack in his armor, and for a moment, the audience leaned forward, catching the scent of vulnerability. Oprah tilted her head, her gaze steady but kind. "That's beautiful, Adam. But I wonder, does the goofy stuff, as you call it, ever feel like a mask? A way to keep the real you at a distance?" The question landed like a pebble in still water. Sandler's smile tightened, his thumb pressing into the velvet armrest. "A mask? Nah. It's just layers, you know? You give the crowd what they want, but you keep some for yourself." His words were smooth, but his knee bounced once, twice. Camera 2, tight on his hands, a director's voice murmured faintly through an earpiece. The audience shifted, sensing the pivot. Oprah's pen tapped once, a deliberate, audible click. "Layers," she echoed. "I get that. But you've been in this game a long time. Comedy, drama, producing, even music. You've built an empire. When you look back, what's the legacy you want to leave?" Sandler leaned forward now, elbows on his knees, his voice dropping an octave. "Legacy? That's a heavy word, Oprah. I just want people to laugh, maybe cry a little, and go home feeling something. I'm not out here trying to rewrite history." His tone was earnest, but his eyes darted to the side, as if scanning for an exit. A woman in the audience adjusted her glasses, her phone screen glowing as she typed. Oprah's smile didn't waver, but her eyes sharpened. "Not rewriting history, maybe, but you've shaped it. Your films, your brand, they're cultural touchstones. Yet some critics say you've leaned too hard on the safe, the commercial. That you've dodged the harder questions your talent could tackle. What do you say to that?" The air thickened. Sandler's jaw clenched, just for a second, before his grin snapped back. "Critics, huh? They've got their pens, I've got my movies. I don't make art for the think pieces. I make it for the people in the seats." His voice carried a sting, and the audience murmured, a mix of agreement and unease. A stagehand near camera 1 froze, his clipboard rustling. Oprah nodded, her fingers brushing the chipped cup. "Fair enough. But let's talk about the people in the seats. You've got this massive platform, millions hang on your work. Does that ever feel like a weight? Like you owe them something beyond the laughs? Sandler's laugh was sharp, almost a bark. Oh, Oprah, I give them everything. My heart, my hustle. Visibility's not a gift, it's a deal. You sign up, you deliver. He paused, his fingers curling around the armrest. But privacy? That's mine. That's the one thing they don't get to take. The words hung there, taut as a wire. Oprah's eyes held his, unblinking. Privacy, she said softly, is control, isn't it? But when you're as big as you are, Adam, that control gets messy. People want the real you, not just the characters. They feel entitled to it. How do you navigate that line? Sandler's shoulders stiffened, his sneakers scuffing the floor again. Navigate? You don't. You build walls. You let them see what you choose, not what they demand. His voice was low, almost a growl, but a flicker of something, regret maybe, crossed his face. He swallowed, his Adam's apple bobbing. Camera 3, close on his throat. The audience was silent now, programs forgotten in their laps. A producer's shadow moved behind the glass, her phone screen a dim flare. Oprah leaned forward, her voice dropping to that intimate cadence that had undone senators and stars alike. Walls are one thing, Adam. But when those walls hide contradictions, say, preaching family values in your films while sidestepping questions about your own choices, doesn't that invite scrutiny? Doesn't that make the public wonder who you really are? Sandler's eyes narrowed, his grin gone. You're good, Oprah. You always are. But let's not play saint and sinner here. I'm a guy telling stories, not running for office. You want to talk choices? I've made plenty. Some I'd do again, some I wouldn't. But I don't owe the world my diary. His fingers drummed faster now, a staccato beat against the chair. Oprah didn't flinch. Her pen rested on her notepad, its tip glinting under the lights. No one's asking for your diary, she said, her voice calm but unyielding. But when you've got the kind of influence you do, when your work shapes how people see love, family, even morality, don't you think there's a responsibility there? To be accountable, not just to your fans but to the truth? The word truth landed like a blade. Sandler's breath hitched, his knuckles widening on the armrest. The chipped cup gleamed between them, its crack a silent scream. The audience held its breath, a collective inhale that seemed to suck the air from the room. A faint hum rose from the lights, and the microphone wire clipped to Sandler's collar sang faintly as he shifted. Oprah's gaze didn't waver. She leaned forward, her voice soft but surgical. Adam, when you dodge the hard questions, about your choices, your impact, your privilege, aren't you betraying the very authenticity you claim to stand for? Sandler's chair scraped against the floor, a sharp, grating sound. His hand tightened on the armrest, veins standing out. His lips parted, a quick breath escaping, but no words came. The studio lights buzzed, the cameras whirred, and the chipped cup sat still, its crack a quiet witness to the moment about to break. The studio held its breath as Adam Sandler's chair scraped against the polished floor, a raw, jagged sound that cut through the hum of the lights. His knuckles, white on the armrest, trembled as Oprah's final question, "Aren't you betraying the very authenticity you claim to stand for?" hung in the air like a guillotine. His lips parted, a sharp inhale whistling through his teeth. The chipped porcelain cup on the oak table gleamed, its crack a silent echo of the fracture now splitting the room. Sandler stood abruptly, his microphone wire snapping taut with a faint twang. "You want authenticity?" he said, his voice low but venomous, each word a dart. "Here's authentic, I'm done." He tore the mic clip from his collar, the tiny metal clasp pinging against the floor. The audience gasped, a collective jolt, programs crumpling in their hands. Camera 1, wide shot, a producer's voice crackled faintly through the control room glass. But the crew froze, their eyes locked on the scene. Oprah remained still, her silk blazer catching the soft glow of the studio lights. Her face was a mask of calm, but her fingers brushed the edge of her notepad, a flicker of tension. "Adam," she said, her voice steady but carrying that maternal weight that had disarmed titans. You can walk away, but the questions don't. He paused mid-step, his sneakers squeaking on the floor. His shoulders hunched, and for a fleeting moment, his eyes, wide, almost boyish, betrayed a pang of doubt. Then the mask snapped back. Questions? He spat, turning to face her. You don't want answers, Oprah. You want blood. You want me to crack open my chest for your ratings. His voice rose, jagged and raw, and a woman in the audience clutched her phone, its screen glowing as she recorded. The air was electric, thick with the scent of ozone and sweat. The camera's word, camera 2, tight on his face, capturing the flush creeping up Sandler's neck. Oprah tilted her head, her gaze unyielding but not unkind. It's not about ratings, she said softly. It's about truth. You've built a life on telling stories that move people. But when you hide from accountability, you're telling them their trust doesn't matter. Sandler's laugh was a bitter bark, echoing in the small studio. Trust? The world doesn't trust me, they consume me. They chew up my work, my life, and spit out think pieces. And you, he jabbed a finger toward her. You're the one holding the knife. His hand dropped, trembling, and he took a step toward the stage's edge. The audience stirred, a low murmur rippling through the seats. A stagehand near camera 3 clutched his clipboard, his knuckles pale. Oprah leaned forward, her voice dropping to a near whisper. If I'm holding a knife, Adam, it's only to cut through the walls you've built. You're not just a comedian, you're a mirror. People see themselves in you. When you dodge the hard truths, you're breaking that mirror. Her pen rested on the chipped cup, its crack a quiet witness to the unraveling. Sandler froze, his breath hitching. For a moment, he looked small, almost fragile, the bravado stripped away. His eyes flicked to the audience, then to the control booth, where a producer's shadow moved, her headset glinting. You think you know me, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. You think you know what I owe. He turned, his sneakers thudding against the stage, and walked off, the mic wire trailing like a severed lifeline. The wide shot caught his silhouette vanishing into the wings, the velvet curtains swaying in his wake. The studio erupted into whispers, phones flashing as the audience typed furiously. Get that on social, a muffled voice came from the control room. Oprah exhaled, her shoulders softening, but her eyes stayed fixed on the empty chair. The chipped cup sat still, its crack now a symbol of something irreparably broken. She touched it lightly, her fingers lingering, then looked directly into camera 1. We'll be right back, she said, her voice steady but heavy with unspoken weight. The lights dimmed for the commercial break, but the room buzzed with aftershocks. In the audience, a young man in a denim jacket tweeted, Sandler just walked off Oprah. This is wild. The post racked up retweets before the stagehand could signal the break's end. In the control room, the producer yanked off her headset, muttering, This is going viral. Backstage, Sandler paced a narrow hallway, his hands raking through his hair. The fluorescent lights buzzed above, casting harsh shadows on his face. A production assistant, barely 20, hovered nearby, clutching a water bottle she didn't dare offer. You okay, Mr. Sandler? She ventured. He didn't answer, his sneakers scuffing the linoleum. A memory flashed, his daughter's voice, years ago, asking why people were so mean online. He'd laughed it off then, but now it stung, a wound he couldn't name. Outside, the internet ignited. Clips of the walkout flooded X, each frame dissected, Sandler's clenched fist, Oprah's unflinching gaze, the chipped cup glinting under the lights. Sandler crumbles under Oprah's questions, one headline screamed. Oprah goes too far, countered another. Memes of Sandler's mic toss spread faster than the truth, each post a new cut in the narrative he'd fought to control. In the studio, Oprah returned to her chair, the audience now restless, their whispers a low hum. The cameras rolled again, but the energy had shifted, less intimate, more gladiatorial. She addressed the audience directly, her voice a blend of resolve and empathy. What we saw tonight was raw, she said. Not just a moment, but a mirror. We all have truths we run from. The question is, what happens when we stop running? The audience applauded, but it was hesitant, fractured. A woman in the front row wiped her eyes, her program crumpled in her lap. The chipped cup remained on the table, untouched, its crack now a quiet monument to the collision of control and exposure. Sandler, still backstage, leaned against the wall, his phone buzzing with notifications he didn't open. His manager's text flashed, "Call me. We need to spin this." But he didn't call. Instead, he closed his eyes, the echo of Oprah's words, betraying authenticity, looping in his mind. He thought of his kids, of the roles he'd played, of the man he'd tried to be. Was he hiding, or was he protecting? The line blurred, and for the first time in years he wasn't sure. The fallout spilled into the next day. Ex-posts piled up, some defending Sandler's rawness, others praising Oprah's courage. "He's human, let him breathe," one user wrote. "She exposed his privilege," another shot back. The chipped cup became a bizarre internet fixation, a symbol of fragility in a world obsessed with strength. Fan accounts posted stills of Sandler's exit, captioned with heartbreak emojis. Critics churned out think pieces, dissecting his defensiveness, Oprah's precision, and the ethics of public exposure. Oprah, in her dressing room, sipped tea from a different cup, the chipped one now packed away. She scrolled through the posts, her face unreadable. A memory surfaced, a young reporter, decades ago, asking her why she pushed so hard. "Because truth is the only way through," she'd said then. Now, she wondered if the cost was too high. Not for her, but for him. Sandler boarded a flight home, his hoodie pulled low. The airport buzzed with whispers, phones angled his way. He thought of the stage, the lights, the chipped cup. He thought of Oprah's final question, its weight still pressing on his chest. Authenticity wasn't just a performance, it was a reckoning. As the plane climbed, he stared out the window, the city lights fading below. He didn't have answers, but for the first time, he felt the questions sinking in. The story didn't end that night, but it shifted. The world watched, judged, and moved on, but for Sandler, the walkout was a door he couldn't close. And for Oprah, it was a reminder, the truth cuts, but it also carves. The chipped cup, packed in a box somewhere, held its silence, a small, cracked witness to a moment that refused to fade.